It's my pleasure to introduce Jennifer Zach, the ALN board member and Uberlytics CMO.
Hello, and on the behalf of the Asset Leadership Network board, our membership, and the event planning team, we are delighted to welcome you to the 2020 Fall Forum. We have some sadness in not being together in Washington, D.C., as we have been for the last 7 or 8 years. But we are very excited about how the online format is allowing us to extend participation literally around the world. And we have an incredible lineup of speakers. We have asset managers and participants joining us from all over the country and all over the world. And we're so excited to be able to extend that in this format. And we have a really diverse representation of people and experience working in different roles, in different ways, who have so many rich contributions to give to this community. The other thing that I always appreciate about the Asset Leadership Network and our annual event is the ambitious and innovative thinking. This year, we have set the bold aim of rethinking the concept of value and applying asset management principles and practices to solving some of our most intractable challenges that we face today. That is bold, that is ambitious. Today, we're going to be talking about the National Asset Leadership Strategy, which is nothing if not bold and audacious, but we believe it is necessary and we believe it's entirely possible. And the innovators that are gathering to tackle this are impressive. And I believe we're going to see some really amazing things coming out of this event. While we are bold and aspirational, we are also practical. Every session over the next 3 weeks will yield insights and practical things that you can take and apply to your job and to your mandate in managing assets. You will learn things that will help you be a better asset leader.
All right. So let's circle back to asset management now and focus on the first couple words of this, which says it's a coordinated activity. I wrote a whole white paper, I drafted a white paper saying that the word coordinated shouldn't be in that definition. And I could still make that argument, but I think it's easier to think about what are those coordinated activities of an organization, all right? We talked about that. So we also, in 55,000, didn't talk about who is doing the coordinating. Leadership is mentioned in ISO 55,000 in terms of, here's what we need from leadership to get asset management done, to accomplish those asset management activities. But it doesn't address who should be running this in an organization. Should it be everybody? Should it be some of the people? Should it be a separate office? Should it be a team? We didn't go there. We wasn't there. But we see that's where asset leadership fits in and is in fact the definition of asset leadership, is planning and directing the activity of an organization to realize value from assets. So it's making it happen in the organization, and especially in achieving the mission and objectives of the organization. So let's think about that, the mission and objectives of the organization. So asset leadership connects the organizational objectives to the asset management objectives. So just a couple takeaways on the significance. That asset leadership connects asset management to larger organizational and to the organization mission and objectives. And that asset related decisions can be made based on organizational mission and objectives. And they will share with you some information about the National Asset Leadership Strategy. Welcome.
All right.
Thank you so much, Jim, and thank you for those opening remarks. I'm Moshe Nelson. I'm a principal with Thornton. I oversee our asset management solution within the public sector, and I'm really excited to speak about the NOWS 2020. I think now more than ever, we need to think nationally about how we manage our assets and critical infrastructure. We're in unprecedented times where environmental, economic, and health issues have made a significant and immediate impact on the nation. Over the past 2 years, our nation's infrastructure and people have been tested in a myriad of ways, from environmental factors such as hurricanes, wildfires, and flooding, security threats such as cyber and terrorism, economics, shifting workforces and global supply chain, and of course, healthcare with global pandemic illuminating factors in our abilities to coordinate and respond. And lastly, social unrest and division as inequalities are heightened by the crisis. If one aspect that is positive coming out of COVID-19 is the fact that federal, state, local, and private sector entities have come together and worked collectively to advance national and global ideals. It's not perfect, but this crisis has forced us to work a little bit more effectively. Asset management, in our view, for those that are attending this, is the linchpin for navigating these changes. We're enabling critical care to be given to the sick, movement of goods and supply chains to ensure critical services can be delivered, from guarding our country to taking care of the elderly and sick population. And then we're driving innovative responses to rapidly and evolving challenges, such as the hunt for the COVID-19 vaccine and ultimately for distribution. The NOW strategy began 2 years ago, where we started the conversation for a system-wide national asset management approach. And many of the issues that we've seen today with COVID-19 have illustrated the importance that ISO 55000 and its concepts are and exist to manage day-to-day coordination and plan for the future. Some examples of that are strategic asset management planning, data management, risk, culture, and communications. Wall Street Journal and Council of Foreign Relations have recently pushed out articles that have described how coordination and data management and systems throughout the COVID-19 pandemic have achieved many different challenges that, quite frankly, implementing ISO 55000 may provide a framework to address. So by utilizing this approach, federal, state, local, and the private sector can begin to work more collectively and advance day-to-day management principles, as well as future strategic planning efforts.
The one NOWS element that was not included in ISO 55000 was taxonomy, which Jim also mentioned. And the reason for that is that ISO 55000 is written to organizations, and it assumes that each organization has its own asset taxonomy. However, when you're approaching all organizations in the nation, you have to establish a common taxonomy just so that you can communicate across those different other organizations.
It's pretty clear to me that the ISO 55000 to be successful needs to work in conjunction with other management system standards. We've talked about safety, we've talked about security, somebody mentioned risk. There are standards for all those. We know about 9,000 and 14,000, which are leading standards. I think we're going to see 55,000 be successful when it is adopted and used in conjunction with other management system standards.
When this country was doing its best in terms of building like the interstate system and other big national projects, we had a political consensus about what was needed in the country. You know, we needed electricity, we needed, good water, we needed a good, effective transportation network. And so you could get people from both sides of the aisle coming together and saying, okay, we might differ in some of the specifics, but we agree with the goal. We need to do something as a nation to solve this problem.
And we have to start seeing the industry that we are in as having a means to talk to each other in a common format. So when someone mentions water pipes, we know exactly what they mean and what they're talking about. Is it the same water pipe serving a building as it serves coming out of the Hoover Dam, for example? There is a use of language, there is a use of taxonomy, which needs to be addressed and formalized so that we can then all talk about things in exactly the same way.
my counsel, and I think for anyone listening, is you need the marketing group involved in that. Because as soon as that company got their salespeople involved in promising asset management results to customers, asset management became baked into the company. You can say what you want about top leadership. You can say what you want about finance, but get the sales and marketing people involved and to understand that asset management allows you to make promises that not only sound good, but those are promises you can keep.
Tony, you want to finish up with the last minute or so?
Yep, sure. I would go refer to a comment from Marty Rowland, I believe it is, who said if Beverly Hills water came out brown, something would have been done. Whereas in Flint, it didn't happen anywhere near so quickly. The thing I would come back to in the discussion we've had so far, we've used the word asset, we've used the word asset management. And what we have is those words being used to reflect what I would call commodity items. People are seemingly understanding the word asset. People know what power transformers are. We know what water pipes are. We know various things. And I would recommend everyone become aware of a thing called the Dunning-Kruger effect, where just because we understand a little bit of the language doesn't mean we understand the thing itself. Just because we've seen entries in a spreadsheet doesn't mean we understand what those things are doing and capable of. And what we need is to have a little bit more understanding, and we need people who know what's actually going on with the assets themselves.
Really think Tony wrapped it up well with pointing us to that idea that just because we understand some terms, we have a lot of work to do to understand the big picture and the big issues. And I think we have a great start to that, this discussion around asset leadership, around the potential for asset management to solve large problems in our nation. So we've started working towards understanding more than just some terms, and I'm excited to see what comes from future sessions.
Every year we're surprised of where we go with our fall event, and we end up in a remarkably new and different and more interesting place. I think one of the trends that I am hoping to see in the coming year, somebody mentioned CISA is a great thing. We need to have a relationship with CISA. I think there's some relationships we could make with other organizations about equity, where we can bring our broad and general expertise around asset management and asset leadership in ways that can inform efforts in a lot of these specific areas.